Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our Conscious Health podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to touch on a topic that is extremely helpful for everyone. And I think that we all suffer from this kind of, let's say, hijacking experiences that we sometimes have. And it's the inner blueprint, science, the spirit, and the subconscious. That's the topic of today. So, what are your thoughts on the subconscious, Natasha?
Oh, the subconscious for me, I work a lot working in the Akashic records. We actually work with a lot of, the subconscious holds a lot of our programming. It holds most of our programming. It holds the blueprints of past lifetimes. It holds the blueprints of the intergenerational trauma that we've carried. It holds the blueprint of what the maps that we've connected to, and it's tapping into that akashic field or the subconscious field that helps us to really navigate those patterns that are really inherited that we don't. A lot of the times we don't tend to see what they are until we're ready, to deal with them. So that's the cool thing is that yes, subconsciously we're running these, programs, in the background that we don't know is there. Especially mentally and emotionally, how we approach people. Sometimes we walk into a room and we either like somebody or we feel like running. That's all connecting into the subconscious mind, right? I tend to use the tool called the Akashic Records. It tends to help understand what's happening sometimes on a subconscious level or whatever is starting to present itself consciously. And that's a beautiful thing is that there are, even though sometimes, like you say, we get hijacked because we go into this autopilot because that's all we know. But when we start becoming conscious of these habits, conscious of these belief systems, conscious of our actions, our thoughts, our emotions, we start bringing what's in the subconscious to the conscious. And then that means that we can actually deal with it, right? Because a lot of the times, things that we do, even though we have free will, sometimes it's not it is always a choice, but it's more governed by this instinct. So we become reactive rather than responsive. So it's that aspect of reaction is going, okay, where did that come from? Why did I do that? Because it's a lot of the times it's stuck in the subconscious, especially if we've been through deep trauma. We'll go and we'll file it away in there like really, really nicely until it's ready to kind of like surface again, until we're able to deal with it. So not only there, but in our bodies as well. I don't know. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts from a medical perspective?
well, there are a lot of thoughts that I have had right now because I also believe that there is a certain stage in our lives, and I think for many people, and this is just my guess, based on also some statistics that people have had, that passing through the 40s and getting into this 50s age, you start layering those things that happen in your childhood stage. And now you have this bandwidth and this courage to deal with them and to go deep into those layers that you have, and understanding that puzzle brings more and more things that you can now, as you mentioned, make conscious. And many times our bodies starts sending us signals about many of those things, and the more you know your body, the easier it is to recognize that many times it's not something that you ate, or is not something that you didn't do in terms of the exercise or physical activity. It's also something emotional that is
Yeah.
tapping into your pathways, because these subconscious thought processes are also running the show in terms of sending the signals to our genes. So
Yeah.
many of the intrinsic process of our body, such as the release of certain hormones or the immune system, are governed by these messages. So if you don't have certain kind of control in your thoughts and you are always in this survival mode, or these cortisol peaks that usually people run into them, well, it's for sure that you will have a lot of symptoms in your body. And if you numb the symptoms with the pills, that's gonna make just the body worse, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the body keeps the score for sure in all of that, right? But it's those subconscious programs that run, that influence our thoughts, our emotions, and it influences how our body responds. I mean, it's like our body's constantly listening. I think we tend to forget that our body is mostly water. Water holds memory.
Mm-hmm.
Is the other aspect of it. So we're constantly with our words, with our thoughts, constantly reprogramming, I suppose, our bodies and our egos as well, right? It's the ego is a big part of it. Our ego is a big part of a collection of the subconscious scripts that we run in the background, right? And a lot of the times, ego gets a bad rep in a sense of we want to minimize the ego or thrash it or, completely kill the ego, but it's not. It's a part of us that tries to keep us safe. It's a part of us that we need to allow it to grow with us and expand with us, and there's a part of the ego that is actually quite good for us to step into that, that confidence in who we are as well, right? Where the ego limits us, those are the subconscious scripts that we run that end up what we call sabotaging ourselves, really, because we'll subconsciously place ourselves in situations that aren't favorable because we're too afraid to step into, for example, success and failure are two sides of the same coin. And sometimes we fear success. And somebody would go like, why would we fear success? And it's like, because there's a lot that comes with success, right? That on a subconscious level, we're like, oh my goodness, if I'm successful, people will see me, people will judge me, whatever it might be. Oh, if I'm successful, that comes with even more responsibility. I'm so done with responsibility, whatever it might be. But there's always a subconscious program that is running in there. So it's really about getting curious about, oh, I wonder why that showed up. Because that's the other thing is that we are creators and we are constantly creating our lives. And whether we do it unconsciously or consciously, that is the big difference. Because I think, like you say, in the earlier years, we allow life to happen to us. And then in our 40s and our 50s, we start unpacking that and we start to realize, wait a minute, life is always happening for us. Right.
Yeah.
So if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have gotten here. And you start looking at hindsight, but it's all those subconscious programs that were drawing that map for you, right? Because the lessons that you chose to explore in this lifetime, I'm talking on a spiritual level, they will unfold because those programs are running. They're
Mhm.
like, I want to learn how to get over people pleasing. What do? You become a people pleaser in order to learn how not to people please or to create boundaries. Or, I want to rid the lineage of intergenerational trauma. So we'll experience the trauma to heal it, to overcome it, to help others to do that. But these are all scripts that are running in the background.
Yeah.
And it's not an enemy. It's if we get curious, we're able to pull the scripts that we need consciously. And there's a lot that we do unconsciously. And that's okay. But again, as I'm saying earlier, once we recognize these patterns of things that we do, if we do not change our behavior and our responses, then we're choosing to continue that. That then
Mhm.
becomes a choice. When it's in the subconscious, we're running on autopilot,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
like our heart is always beating, our lungs are always, moving through. But when we consciously take that breath and be quiet and sit with our bodies, it changes. We feel into the pain. We feel into, oh, what's actually happening? We start to become conscious because all these things are running in the background anyway.
Yeah. And a lot of these things have happened recently to me in terms of being a lot more able to pick on the messages of my body and what am I doing in terms of the routines that I already have, or sometimes changing certain aspects of those routines and not taking well the changes. I have also discovered that I can pick up the messages from my body very quickly and know what happened and what did I overdo, or what, let's say, supplement I'm taking too much of it, and my body is responding to that certain aspect instead of thinking, oh my god, what is happening to me, and just getting in these overdrive situations where you make the disease worse.
Yeah.
Something really really strange happened during the last week that I think it will help many people to realize how our subconscious mind works and how your body is always sending you messages. I started to take creatine for the training sessions, and I researched and I did a lot of background, let's say, checking in terms of the amount of creatine that I should start taking. And I said, well,
Yeah.
I can start with 5 grams, and I started with five. Then I saw that if you take more than five, it goes and it helps your brain also to have more cognitive bandwidth, let's say. And then more or less like 3 weeks after I started this ingestion of the creatine, I had an experience at night where I had a rash in my legs, but just my legs. And it was
Oh.
very funny because I thought that it was some bug just uh, pinching me or doing something at night. And I started to look at my house and see everything, and nothing happened. And then I said, what if it's something that I'm taking and I wasn't taking before? And I started researching more, and I said, and I discovered that this creatine, when you take too much, and it is the monohydrated creatine version and not the um, lyophilized or very fine pieces of creatine, it doesn't dissolve well in your body, and it takes up a lot of fluid from your body, and that makes your body be depleted in ions that are essential for your mainly all of the metabolic functions, and you start having these episodes of rash. But once you get in the day and once you start hydrating and eating and all of those things, well, the rash goes away and that's it.
Yeah.
But that was just because I had this intuition. I
Yeah.
didn't go to the medic, I didn't medicate myself, I didn't do anything, let's say, in this unconscious mind.
Yeah.
Mainly, I asked questions and I started to review what I was introducing in my diet that was new, and I then took it away. And I saw that by taking away that creatine for 2 or 3 days, I was okay again.
Yeah.
So that's the power of the body when you connect with it and when you know more about your body than any physician, let's
Yeah.
say. No?
So yeah, I know people that before they eat anything, they ask their body if they're ready to receive that, and they'll get a yes or a no. But the other interesting thing, speaking of creatine, you actually took me back about 30 years to a memory that I had. I had a very good a friend of mine that used to teach karate. And in his karate dojo, there was a physiotherapist that was there. And I went to go and see him because, like, I had been hit by a car when I was much younger. I had a little bit of scoliosis, and this was like 30 years ago. Okay, I'm showing my age here. 30 years ago. And this physiotherapist was incredible in the sense that he used muscle testing,
Mm.
and he created a wedge for my shoe. Again, showing my age. If any of you remember the yellow pages, He created a wedge that was specific to the specific of one page of the yellow pages to put in my shoe to align me. But before we left, a friend of mine, he was also doing some bodybuilding as well. He said, "Hey, I want," because creatine was quite big at that time,
Mm.
and he said to him, "Hey, should I take creatine?" And he said, "Okay." So just going back, he muscle tested me to the wedge of my shoe, to up to that place of one kind of like yellow pages page. And then when my friend said to him, "I'm thinking of taking creatine to build," he said, "Okay, just put it up against your chest." So he put the creatine up against his chest, and he muscle tested him. He was like, "No, that's not going to work for you. It's not going to be
Mm.
good for your body." And I thought that was incredible. And this was like, as I say, about 30 years ago, that
Yeah.
this individual, now I know how ahead of his time he was, you know,
Mhm.
in what he was creating. And I can't even remember the name of the doctor, but it was, I just found it to be very, very fascinating that came in. And perhaps that muscle testing would have helped you solve that as well. So listening to your
Yeah.
body and then still testing your muscle would be quite incredible.
Well, that's a good idea that I'm going to try now. Asking my body before I introduce something, that is a very good way of doing it. And I think that this is just amazing how many habitual things we do without, let's say, just bringing these layers that we are different, that we are individuals, that we are specific in our biology, and that we don't respond the same to supplements, to food, to anything. So many, let's say, people of the physicians world and the medical community generalize things in terms of the medications that you should take, and they don't even see you. They just give you the pill because they listen
Yeah,
to the symptoms, but they don't know anything about your history, or if you
yeah,
have any allergies, all of those things. So
yeah.
doing those unconscious ways of taking care of your body is just going to create an autopilot mind that is going to drive you quickly to have a much bigger experience. You know?
Yeah. But I think that's the future of medicine as we look into that, looking at somebody from a holistic perspective. So, absolutely, they show up with symptoms. Absolutely, we need to look at their biology and their chemistry and what's happening on a physical form. But it's not enough. It's actually become not enough to do that anymore. And I think the industries have pushed doctors into diagnosing in 5 minutes, it's in and it's out. You don't actually have time to actually really capture what is going on because we're so much more than just the physical symptoms like you say. And I think the future of medicine is a practice that will hold a psychologist, will hold somebody that looks at you, or different practitioners that will look at you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually,
Mhm.
to see what is happening in that subconscious mind. Where is that coming from as well. And then you start looking at yourself from a whole perspective, because the symptom and the cause are rarely the same thing. Very
Yeah.
rarely are they in alignment. So it's like, if I remember when I was younger, and if I get nervous, it used to hit my stomach. So if you give me something for my stomach, it's not going to help. The origin is my nerves and how to deal with stress, you know. So it's very rare that it's the same too. But again, all these programs are happening subconsciously, and that's where we get that, when we get that change of perception or perspective, when we understand what's happening subconsciously, we're like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been doing, why I've been doing it, how I've learned how to do it. And it's like, all of a sudden, you have this huge aha or a huge awakening. But what's happening is you've really just shifted perspective. You've
Mhm.
really just shifted how you view life. And because you've shifted how you view life, life changes.
Exactly. Yes, you just change the position of the observer, which is you, and you start um, tapping into this magical, let's say, wisdom, magical because we can't see it, because it's not physically present, let's say. But
Yeah.
just because of that, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. I mean,
Well,
it does work.
I see it as kind of like radio dial, right? Like you one moment you're on AM and then all of a sudden you turn to FM radio. You know, it's kind of like it's just really shifting that dial, and it's that change of music, right? That comes in, and it's this that shift within us, like the whole world kind of like changes because we are completely on a different frequency. And we can't see radio waves, we can't see Wi-Fi waves, we can't see the wind, but yet we can see the effects of it. We can hear it. You know, I mean, we're talking to each other across the oceans, like it's across time. We're even talking to each other across time. You know,
Exactly.
it's like afternoon for you, it's evening for me, right? It's incredible what you can do with what you don't see.
Yes, and this is just one of the most amazing experiences that we are going to live in this transition of the way we see medicine, as you mentioned, and medicine not just in the terms of physical
Yeah,
illnesses, but also mental illnesses, because
yeah,
also the psychology that we are using or we were using before is not going to be enough for the
no,
future. We need this spiritual realm with this, we need this tapping of the mystical that we used to call mystical, but
no,
nowadays
it's not.
we have more and more evidence that is uh, more present than we would, let's say, give credit for. No.
Yeah. Well, I believe that at the top of science is metaphysics. So the science is catching up with what I mean. I joined the Theosophical Society here in Edinburgh. I'm actually the VP there. It's a non-for-profit organization, but I mean, Madame Blavatsky, who actually headed it up, the reason I found her was because she brought the concept of the Akashic records from the East to the West, right? But all the scientific information that she downloaded at the time is coming into play now.
Mhm.
Right. And it's almost like it's come full circle. So the concept that she was talking about, multi dimensions, multiple worlds, multiple galaxies, you know, everything existing at the same time, it's all it's all been downloaded, and science is finally catching up to that. Even if we look at medicine, if we look at our body, we look at our health, we look at everything else, it's the journey of the soul. You know, it's all there. Cosmology, she about how you know, one atom vibrates here, the other one equally vibrates in the other side, like, you know, on the other side of the universe. They spoke about all of this,
And I was
right?
listening to some of these discussions between scientists and psychologists and people of the medical community, and they were saying now also the intelligence of children and the new generations shouldn't be based just of the IQ intelligence,
No,
no?
no.
Solving or memorizing or doing those things, but the intelligence that is going to predominate in the following years is going to be intuition, and
Absolutely.
how much your intuition is working and how much intuitive wisdom you can develop through your experiences and through tapping into these messages that happen to you. And that's why I think it's more important many times with our children, in
Yeah.
despite the age that they have, to ask them questions instead of giving them answers and trying to see what they come up with, because many times they can surprise us with the
Yep.
answer and we don't even need to tell them what is happening. They already know.
Absolutely. And they know so much on so many levels. Like, for example, if you throw a baby into water, it will swim. It'll know how to move to the surface and turn itself around and swim. That's all subconscious. That is all subconscious programming that is there as well. And we are very intuitive, especially up to the first 7 years. We're more on that side than we are on this side. So you'll be surprised at the questions, the answers that these kids will give you. But not only that, the last 20 years, the generations have been different. And
Mhm.
like this is the my foundation for everything. What keeps us human is our intuition. Especially like I have a whole like 12-week program dedicated to this, and a whole series talking about vibration, why vibes matter. And it's all connected to this because the more information we have, it's not even knowledge, it's information that we have, the more we need to be able to discern what's accurate and what's not. In the time of AI, we just like, it's almost like my mom's like, did you see what's happening with the war? I'm like, I don't even know what's real or not anymore. I don't know if it's an AI fabricated something or if it's not, if it's actually really true. I don't even know what the news is that's coming, that's being filtered by whom. You have to watch various media sources, but the thing that glues everything is discernment, and you get discernment by connecting into your intuition. And that's
Right.
what makes us human. So I'm into this whole mission of rehumanizing us by helping us tap into our intuition. Because again, our intuition connected to our subconscious, it's connected into our bodies, it's connected into the people we connect with, into the things that we watch. It's you're right. That is, I 100% agree with those psychologists because our intuition is what it's our gift. It's not even a gift. It's our normal standard that's been suppressed.
Mm. I think that that is what is going to make us differentiate
Mm-hmm.
from what is coming and what we are already experiencing with AI and everything that is being
Absolutely.
created and how we are being, let's say, displaced from this position of the more you know, the more degrees you have, the more you are valued. No, now
Not
that's
anymore.
over. That's over. Now the degrees or the information in terms of the knowledge that you have, it's not going to be enough. You need to develop some expertise into the things that you bring to make you unique and authentic, and also bring this intuitive wisdom. And that doesn't that is not being taught at all in any kind of school. So we need this kind of practices in our everyday life, you know?
Well, in the East, they know this. So they've brought a lot of mindfulness, mindful meditation, kids meditating from a very young age. And meditation is a great way to connect into your intuition. Journaling is a great way to connect into your intuition. But I'll actually go further than that. It's not that it's not being taught at school, it's actually being suppressed.
Hmm.
It's worse than that because it's so powerful, right? And I mean, even our parents, like, they taught us, like, oh, there's a monster under our bed, you know? It's like, no, there isn't. And you're like, instead of asking, okay, what color is it? What does it look like? Where did it come from? Why is it scary? Because
How many
you,
hands?
how many hands does it, how many eyes does it have? You know? But it's true. You'll be surprised at what those, instead of getting curious and validating that there is a feeling, there is a fear. What is the fear? Whether it is there or not, it's validating that, because that is the intuitive part. And we do it in business, we call it gut instinct, but it's refining those skills, right? And it's not only gut instinct. Gut instinct, we feel it in the body, is one part of intuition.
Mm.
It's our body telling us, oh, that's not right. It's coming from the subconscious mind. But when we're working with the upper chakras, that is receiving the knowledge and wisdom, the remembering, because nobody teaches anybody anything. They just remind you of what you already know, because we are born all knowing. But it's connecting into that space of that intuitive side that will guide us. And we've already created a blueprint. We've got the blueprint of what we want to experience. But it's like you say, that being that uniquely ourselves, that is who we're meant to be, because everybody else is taken, as they say, but it's also, it's like a puzzle piece. We have our unique shape. If we were to be a shape of somebody else, we wouldn't complete the puzzle. It would be
Yeah.
something missing. right? So you're right. Authentically, we have to be ourselves completely. And we do that by connecting into that inner side, that, our intuition, which is important.
And you remind me of these sessions that I am now doing with my patients and my clients, that they start doing these sessions with a map of who they are, with a map of the different kind of blueprint that they bring
Yeah.
to the table, because they have different spheres of life. What is the sphere of your life and your purpose? The other sphere is your sequence of relationships and everything that you bring from the intellectual world to the emotional world, and also what you bring from the ancient generations, from your parents and your grandparents. And finally you get into a sphere of life where you align those two spheres, and then you create the prosperity. So once you have dominated those three spheres, you create the balance of all of them. And that's the beauty of understanding that we are not just this map of genes, but we are a map of these spiritual threads that we can
Yeah.
see, and we have these shadows that we have to work with. And this is the wisdom that I'm now integrating into the holistic practices that I'm trying to help patients with.
Yeah. Shadow is where we grow the most, right? Shadow is where what really and I'm not into going to looking for shadow. If shadow shows up, we'll work with it, right? But it's like you say, it's stepping into that space of the observer, right? Where you're observing, why did I react that way? What was it that triggered me? What did I make it mean? What was the story I told myself? And then, is that true? Is that some program that I'm running in the back that I've been learned? Or is it something that I'm perceiving that that person thinks that I should be this, that, and that? Because a lot of the times we project,
Yeah.
right, onto this. But again, everything's a mirror for us as well, in a sense that it's either something we're working through or something we need to become, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we turn around and we go like, oh my God, they're so selfish. But sometimes it's necessity. Sometimes you need to step into that and create those boundaries, right? So it's not always a bad thing. It's sometimes you're being guided, right? In knowing that that person's doing the right thing for them, right? And you need to do the right thing for you, which is important. So it's a wonderful journey connecting into the subconscious mind, because it has all the hidden programs. And I just see it like a game. It's like a filter that is like, ooh, what's coming through now? What am I ready to deal with? Because whatever comes through, and it might not be sunshine and rainbows. Remember, sunshine and rainbows comes after a big storm, usually, right? After it's been raining. So it really is, yeah, past life stuff's recorded in there as well. The subconscious mind is like, somebody, when I was running somebody through an Akashic course, I said, what's the difference between this and hypnosis? There's no difference. We're connecting into the same frequencies of memory, really, more than anything else.
Yeah.
But we have to get curious. We can't judge ourselves, because if we're so entrained to beat ourselves up. I think radical forgiveness is important, but we need to make the changes. Otherwise, the same scenarios are going to start showing up, the same opportunities. Like, that's one thing. If we don't learn, the opportunity will show up again. If we avoid it, it'll show up again later through another person,
That,
through another situation, another circumstance. If we don't deal with our mothers, our fathers, they show up as our wives, our husbands, our bosses, our friends. It will show up in different areas, right? So it's important. Everybody is, and that's the other thing as well. When you start doing the deeper work of this, is like you start going, okay, what part of this person is me?
mm-hmm.
Right? This part that I don't like about it, what part of them represents me? Why am I triggered? Right?
And that's when you release it, no, and you don't fight with that, but you
No.
try to see it with another perspective, with another
Yeah.
set of eyes, let's say, or lenses,
Yeah.
and that's when you understand that many times it's showing up because you need to work with it. It's not
Yeah.
any more negotiable. So you need to go into these layers and pick on them and start understanding at least what is happening and
Yeah.
why it's happening. No.
Otherwise, you'll find yourself back in the same position again if you choose to ignore it. So usually, it's like you say, you have to do it in a sense of like, well, it's recommended to do it because it's less pain, right?
Mhm.
When I have I used to live in South Africa, and then there was like when there was unrest at the time that Nelson Mandela came out of prison, and there was elections. A lot of people, especially those that have experienced civil war in the other African countries, which my parents did in Mozambique, half of my family got nervous and they left. And my godmother ended up in Portugal, and I think she was there for about 3 months. And she was carrying her handbag, and these guys on a scooter drove past and they snatched her handbag. But she held onto her handbag, and they ended up dragging her for quite a while. And she ended up having like all these scrapes, these bruises, broken ribs, and all the rest of that. And the one day, like, it dawned on me, that's the analogy. We tend to hold on to stuff. And sometimes the more we hold on to stuff that's not in alignment, the more painful it is.
Mm.
So the
Yeah.
quicker we let go, the quicker we surrender, the quicker we accept, the quicker we unleash it, the less painful it will be in a lot of the time. So it just reminded me of that, in that sense, as a big part of the healing. And if we don't choose it, if we don't choose to let go, if we don't choose to deal with it, again, it will. And it's not a punishment. It's a
No.
beautiful opportunity that life gives us to experience these themes and others, and to grow and to expand and to forgive and to be grateful for, and to, yeah, really step into the more authentic aspects of getting to know ourselves,
And
right?
I think that we don't surrender easily to those aspects because we are sometimes we have these constructions in our mind that are making these habits to be these toxic habits to be rewired and to
Yeah.
create. We have this habit center in the region of the brain that liberates this dopamine, and those repetitive actions become structurally cemented in our brain, and they create the hardware, and that's why people are afraid of change because they think that uncertainty and what probably is coming is not going to be good for them, but it's just the, let's say, the more primitive regions of the brain that it is against them. If you tap into the next stages of your physiology, of the way your brain can rewire those aspects, that's when you start, let's say, becoming more human and less reptile. Because the more reptile we are, the more primitive we are, the more we want to stay in that place and the more we make like a tantrum of the things. And we say, we act like teenagers and we don't want to change. And we say, no, that's the way I am and that's what I like and blah, blah, blah. And well, okay, keep doing that, but you will see what happens. That's just with a tantrum. See what happens
Yeah.
with a child when they do that. They just drain a lot of energy and they even become sick at least for that afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah, it's absolutely it's true in that sense. But it's at the beginning of doing that is pretty hard. It's heavy lifting. It's deep. It's but it gets easier, and that's the thing that I say, because and I think it gets easier because we're more compassionate.
Hmm.
towards ourselves, we're more compassionate to other people, we start to understand that. And then and there's a disassociation from it because we know it's part of the process. It's not us, it's the process. It's not, it's, it's the jacket that we were wearing, but it
Hmm.
doesn't fit anymore. So we're not associated to that anymore. There's a disassociation. And sometimes people are like, oh my goodness, you have no feelings. It's like, I might not have, it's not a no feelings. I feel it's just perhaps sometimes I'm just not attached to it. Right? It's one of those things. I'm just not attached to it.
Yeah, you learn how to, let's say, witness the feeling
Mm-hmm.
without this judgment and with more curious mind instead
Mm-hmm.
of just attaching this, let's say, immature mind that is saying, "Well, I'm sad, everything is tragic," and I enter into this cycle and this loop, and I promote this loop
Mm-hmm.
by recreating the past because
Yeah.
those, let's say, when you position yourself into the victim stage and you allow the feeling to drag you through these primitive regions, you start stimulating these loops of victim mindset and habits and bringing images from your past that are going to validate the position of the victim again.
Yeah.
And that's when you can't end up in these very bad wells of depression or anxiety or any of those mental
Yeah.
patterns, no?
But those patterns are all held subconsciously, right? We also hold a whole bunch of a lot of the stuff that we do is self-fulfilling prophecies. Like if we believe that we can't trust anyone, we're going to draw towards us people we can't trust.
Mm-hmm.
If we believe that things are constantly happening to us, everything is always bad, we will draw that towards us because subconsciously it's those loops, just like you say, those come in. The other thing that I was going to say is it's quite interesting in working with the mind as well and working it from a different perspective, almost kind of like I have a friend of mine that has extreme food allergies and chemical depression based on what she eats.
Mm.
So whatever she eats, absolutely that allergy sends her into a deep depression.
Mm.
Sometimes it's actually quite incredible how it also, well, it all works all the ways, but it's quite interesting in the way that that happens. So really, for her, it's been a journey about her food and nourishment and feeding herself on a subconscious level. What's going on there in that sense of not being able to nurture oneself, but it's yeah, I found that quite interesting as a chemical depression, in from based on from food.
Yeah, because, well, I think we are not used to asking the first, instead of looking for the physical experience or the physical symptom or illness,
Mm-hmm.
asking questions about what have you been feeling, what have you been mirroring in
Mm-hmm.
other people, because it's easier sometimes to see it in other people than in ourselves. And when
Yeah,
we see that we are dealing with people that is, let's say, people pleasing, well, they are mirroring something to us that we need
yeah,
to work with. And then the symptom, the physical symptom will show up, and probably it's going to be linked to something that also you had in your diet. And you will start assembling this, let's say, biochemical map that you
mm-hmm.
also can have of yourself. That's why these diets and these things don't work, because they need to be made with your own wisdom, with your own experience,
Yeah.
and you need to find out what is working for you and why, let's say, for instance, you are not losing weight, because
Mm-hmm.
that is also reflecting something, no?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be, yeah. And you're right. It could be physical, could be hormonal, it could be energetic, holding on
Mm-hmm.
to anger, needing to be grounded, needing to be seen, or even hiding yourself. with all these layers, right? So there's,
Protection.
it's the protecting yourself, absolutely. So it's very much, it's multidimensional. It's never, like you say, a one case fits all, right?
Mhm.
Because that's, I've actually had clients come to me and going, I'm too thin. And I'm like, but are you healthy?
Yeah.
Or I have too much weight, but I'm like, are you healthy? You know, or I'm feeling like I need to be a this. And I'm like, okay, but are you healthy? And they're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. So it's like,
Mm.
well, then embrace yourself in the way that you are, right?
Yeah.
Or, and then the other one is like, why am I putting on weight and why am I not losing it? And that is okay. So where is that coming from? How is it serving you right now? You know?
Yeah. Yes, because it all brings back to this idea that we need to tap into deeper layers and we need to go beyond what we can see, and we need to start seeing our environment and what is trying to tell us the environment. And also, I'm sure that when we have these kind of issues in terms of mental or physical things,
Yeah.
we many times have the idea of something from our past
Mm-hmm.
that is showing up, and probably what you are doing is just putting it back or trying to put it back and not paying attention. But by not paying attention, it's gonna start yelling. And
Yeah.
when it yells, that's when the disease shows up. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And our bodies are incredible machines, right? Like what they endure, it's
Yeah.
like they're incredible. Like I heard that we only eat about 20% per day of what the physical body needs. Never mind the junk that we put in it. Okay. And I'm guilty with it as well. But it's like, even from a vitamin and mineral perspective, I think in an average, we tend to only eat 20% of the nutrients that we need.
Mm.
And that's incredible because when you start looking at, okay, when your hair starts going white, it's a lack of copper usually, or
Hmm.
something else that is missing in there, right? It's quite fascinating how the body reacts to it. There was a stage where my mom used to crunch ice all the time, and it was a
Iron.
lack of iron. Yeah, I was just like, oh my goodness. Or like, my brother feels cold, or I feel cold all the time, and it was like, what's going on? It's like iodine. You know, it's like, oh my goodness. So I used to buy the seaweed crackers from like Costco, and I was just like, I used to devour them until I was like, and it's amazing how your body knows, like you were saying earlier, like your body's like, I need this. And you just have these kind of like I was eating iodine kind of like chips for like seaweed, like it was crazy. And then it was like once that was done, I didn't need it anymore. And the
Hmm.
only time that that was extremely prominent for me was when I was pregnant. Like the cravings that I had were always a lack of, you know, or a needing of something. Over here in the UK, they give you these kind of like pregnancy care things that are multivitamins and minerals with omegas. But because I don't eat meat, I eat fish, I was getting a lot of omega intake anyway. So
Hmm.
I started kind of like going off fish, and I was like, oh, I can't eat fish. And then I got like scared because I was like, well, then what protein am I going to like have because I don't eat meat? So I stopped taking the tablets, and then I started eating fish again. I started like, oh, I'm okay with eating this again. So it's amazing how your body works as the mechanics and what it needs. It's always telling you what it needs.
Yeah. And the more we listen, the more, well, the easier the experience becomes. No?
Yeah.
It's just so amazing that we have always put the, let's say, the importance or the authority on other people, and we are the authority of our own bodies.
Absolutely. So the other thing is the more we listen to our intuition, the stronger it gets as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got
So
to learn to listen.
yeah,
Listen to our bodies, listen to our minds, listen to our intuition.
I think
We
that's
need
the
to learn
key
to
word
listen.
that we can leave people with, to listen more to ask more questions, to be more curious, and that's maybe how we can summarize all of this
Absolutely.
knowledge that we have given. And let's say, give me three ideas that you can give people so that we can summarize why the subconscious is so important.
Well, the subconscious is, like I say, it runs all of our programming. It holds the blueprint code of our bodies, of our minds, of why we are here. I mean, those are the two questions I get asked is, who am I? Why am I here? Am I on purpose? The subconscious mind holds all of that. And it's important to sit into observation of self and how you're navigating life and what you're wanting to accomplish. And when it's something that is difficult, it's about going inside. We have all the answers. We just need to listen to our intuition. And we use our intuition as our GPS system that connects us to our blueprint. And in our blueprint, we have it all mapped out. We don't have to second guess all the solutions, all the probabilities, all the possibilities are all there.
Yeah. Well, what I can tell people is that the moment that you see that something is being repeated in your life, in the external environment, ask more questions about you, about
Yeah.
what kind of pattern is trying to reflect me, these kind of people that I'm having conflict with, even if it's someone in your family, or more if it's someone in your family.
Yeah.
And also, when you feel a symptom that is new, instead of quickly going to the doctor, if it's not, of course, a very, let's say, aggressive illness, I'm thinking, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Try to ask more questions in terms of what you have been changing in your diet or what you have been missing in your diet,
Mm.
and try to ask where does this symptom comes from in terms of an emotion that probably you have been repressing.
Yeah.
And finally, don't fall for the habits. Sometimes they are good because they give you discipline, but in terms of the patterns that are sabotaging you, challenge
Yeah.
them more. Challenge them more and try to see what happens when you change a little thing in your routines and in your days so that you can start improving and changing the position of yourself. No?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Well,
listen.
yeah,
And listen.
and listen to your mind and your body.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Natasha, and thank you everyone for listening. If you like this episode and if it's helpful for you or for anyone that resonates with it, please share it and give us your comments or questions or suggestions for another topic that we can touch. And we will see each other on our next episode. Thank you.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.